Good day, students. Welcome to the part 2 of additional issues related to the K-means algorithm. So here we will see regarding the updating the centroids incrementally, bisecting the K-means, and how. One second. One more issue is K-means and the different types of clusters. So let us begin with updating the centroids incrementally. So earlier what we were doing means we were updating the cluster centroids once we have assigned all the points to the closest centroids. So if I have the 50 or 100 data points, what we were doing means we were assigning those points to the closest centroids available. Once one iteration is over, then we used to recompute the centroids or update the cluster centroids. Now instead of doing that, what we are going to do means we are going to update the centroids incrementally after each assignment of a point to a cluster. If we are having the 50 or 100 points, we take one point, assign it, and again recompute the cluster centroids. So this requires either 0 or 2 updates to the cluster centroids at each step. It depends upon whether point moves to a new cluster or stays in a current cluster. If it moves to a new cluster, then two updates are required. Suppose if it stays in a current cluster, then 0 updates are required. You need not update that. So using an incremental update strategy, uh, we can assure or ascertain that empty clusters are not produced. Why? We are having a assurance that point will either move to a new cluster or stay in a new cluster, because of which we can eliminate the possibility of having a empty cluster. In addition, incremental updating in while doing the incremental updating, the relative weight of the point being added may be adjusted. That is, weight of the points is often decreased as the clustering proceeds. The another benefit of the incremental updates uh, is to do with using the objectives other than minimizing the SSC. Till now we were having the objective function as minimizing the sum of squared error. Suppose if we are using the incremental updates, we can go with the other objective functions also. Suppose we are given an arbitrary objective function to measure the goodness of a set of clusters. Arbitrary objective function means we don't know what is that. Any objective function to measure the goodness of a set of clusters, then what we can do means we can compute the value of objective function for each possible cluster assignment, then choose one that optimizes the objective. So that way it is advantageous to us in terms of the calculation of the objective function. On the negative side, updating the centroids incrementally introduces an order dependency. In what way? The clusters may depend on the order in which the points are processed. In a previous case, randomly we were selecting, or using some other approaches we were selecting, uh, like you use the hierarchical clustering, extract the k centroids, all those things we were doing. In this case, it may depend upon a particular order. That may be one disadvantage. So next we will see what do you mean by bisecting the k-means. Bisecting k-means algorithm is a straightforward extension of the basic k-means algorithm which we have seen earlier. So it is based on a very simple idea, that is, we obtain the k clusters, split the set of all points into two clusters, select one of these clusters to split, and so on until k clusters have been produced. You obtain all the points, divide it into two clusters, select one of these clusters for the further splitting process until k clusters have been produced. So The details of the bisecting K clusters are as shown below. That is, first step is you initialize the list of clusters to contain the cluster containing all the points. Then you repeat the following steps. What are those steps? First, you remove a cluster from the list of clusters. Perform the several trial bisections of the chosen cluster. For I is equal to 1 to number of trials, bisect the selected cluster using the basic k-means. This you are going to remove. First, you have set of all the points in a particular, divide it into two clusters, select one cluster, go on bisecting that clusters using the basic k-means up to the number of trials. Once that iterations are over, select the two clusters from the bisection with the lowest total SSE, add these two clusters to the list of clusters, so that in the next repetition what you can do means you can select one cluster and go on doing the bisections. So this has to be done until the list of clusters contains the K clusters. So this is the bisecting k-means. Now the question is how we are going to bisect the clusters, or how we are going to break that. So to do this, we can choose the largest cluster at each step, that is, choose the one with the largest SSE, or use a criterion based on both size and SSE. Whichever is comfortable, you can do that. SSE and size you can use, or individually size or SSE can be used. The resulting clusters are refined by using their centroids as the initial centroids for basic k-means algorithm. This is necessary because in bisecting k-means we are using the k-means algorithm locally, that is to bisect the individual clusters. Therefore, the final set of clusters does not represent a clustering, that is a local minimum with respect to the total SSE. So to illustrate the bisecting k-means algorithm, we can use the earlier set of data points which we have considered in the 8.6. So if we consider this particular figure, what we can do means we can take a pair of centroids for the pair of clusters in the iteration 1. In the iteration 2, it is split into two more, means this centroid will be in the bottom, this centroid goes to the top, and in the iteration 3 finally the centroids will settle down in the respective clusters. So that can be taken as an illustration for bisecting k-means. And bisecting k-means has less trouble with initialization because it performs several trial bisections and takes the one with lowest SSE, and there are only two centroids at each step. By recording the sequence of clustering produced as k-means bisects clusters, the bisecting k-means can be used to produce a hierarchical clustering. So this is regarding the bisecting k-means. Only thing is, first you need to consider all the set of data points or data objects. Then you break it into two clusters, select the cluster with the lowest SSE, then go on bisecting that for n number of trials. Next issue is k-means and different types of clusters. Here we will see to which type of clusters the k-means is more appropriate, and in which type of clusters the k-means will fail to handle that. K-means and its variations have a number of limitations with respect to finding different types of clusters. In particular, k-means has difficulty detecting the natural clusters. When clusters have the non-spherical shapes or widely different sizes or densities, then particularly the k-means will find it difficult to detect the clusters. So this is being illustrated in the figure 8.9, 8.10 and 8.11 respectively. We will see what are the problems over there. In 8.9, the if you see over here, you are having a large cluster embedded between the two small clusters. That is, K-means cannot find the three natural clusters because one of the cluster which is much larger than other two is being embedded, or it is sandwiched between the two smaller clusters. So such type of clusters K-means it is very difficult to find. And in case of 8.10, the problem is we are having a two small dense clusters compared to a one large cluster. So in this case also it is difficult for the K-means to find out the natural clusters. So K-means fails to find the three natural clusters because two smaller clusters are much denser than the larger cluster. Finally, in figure 8.11, the K-means finds the two clusters that mix the portions of two natural clusters because the shape of natural clusters is not globular. If you see this particular figure 8.11, it is going to mix points of one cluster in another, because of which it is hard for the K-means to find out the exact centroids and partition that. So it's not globular in shape, which is why the K-means finds it difficult. So the difficulty in three situations is that K-means objective function is a mismatch for the kind of clusters we are trying to find, since it is minimized by the globular clusters of equal size and density, or by clusters that are well separated. These limitations can be overcome in some sense if the user is willing to accept a clustering that breaks the natural clusters into a number of subclusters. So here if we see this particular figure, instead of having the three natural clusters, if we can break up it into the 6 clusters, then to some extent the problem of K-means finding the clusters can be relieved. As far as this particular set of data points are concerned, you can see over here 6 centroids if we are going to have, then somewhat the problem can be relieved with unequal sizes, unequal densities, non-spherical shapes. So this is regarding the K-means and the different types of clusters which it is going to deal. Finally, we will see what are the strengths and weakness of the K-means algorithm, and we will end this. As far as the strength is concerned, K-means is very simple and can be used for a wide variety of data types. As I have told earlier, there is no restriction that it has to be used only for a particular kind of data, and we have seen it can be used for Euclidean data, document data, everything we have seen in the earlier lecture. So it is also quite efficient, even though multiple runs are often performed. Some variants, including bisecting K-means, are even more efficient and less susceptible to initialization problems. K-means is not suitable for all types of data, means in terms of it cannot handle non-globular clusters or clusters of different sizes and density. I am talking the data means in terms of the non-globular clusters or different sizes and densities. K-means also has trouble clustering the data that contains outliers. So these two are the shortcomings or the weakness of, or you can add another one, that is finally K-means is restricted to data for which there is a notion of centroid or a prototype. So these are the strengths and weaknesses of the K-means algorithm. So we will end this lecture here. That is the part 2 of additional issues of the K-means algorithm. Thank you.